And welcome to Filmmaking Today. I'm your host, Bojan Dulabic. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about this guy here. So this is the Microsoft Surface, the Pro 4 version, which came out a few months ago. I really want to talk about to use this as a filmmaker and as a digital artist. And I'll touch also on using it as just as a productivity tool, but mostly I'll talk about those two things. And I'll give you my opinion on who this thing is for. I got the Intel Core i7, a 6650U CPU with 2.2 gigahertz. And this one has 16 gigs of RAM and 256 SSD hard drive. That's the top of the line in terms of the processor and RAM. When it comes to the hard drive, you can go as high as 1 terabyte. But the problem is, in that case, you're looking at, depending on where you are in the world. In Canada, it's way over $3,000. In the US, I think it's close to three, somewhere around there. And then obviously it depends where you are in the world, but yeah, it's a lot of money, man. In my opinion, I'll just get, I got this one and then I'll just use an external hard drive if I need more space. So let's talk about the keyboard. The keyboard, which by the way does not come with this thing. And many people have said that sucks on Microsoft's part, and I agree. They're charging premium money for this guy, and I think they can toss this one in, or at least offer it as on a discounted price, because again, depending on where you are in the world, in Canada this guy is $190, and in the US I think it's $150, somewhere around there. And they've got two different versions. They've got the regular one, and then they've got one which has a fingerprint reader, which is even more. I didn't get that one. That's not cheap, you know what I mean? Now, having that said, the actual keyboard itself, it's pretty sweet, I gotta say. I haven't used the previous version, but they did do a lot of improvements. On the previous one, the keys were not as far apart as they are here. They were, literally right next to each other, so it wasn't as comfortable typing, right? Now, this guy here, you can type all day, and I do it. I use this, for a variety of things, and typing is certainly one of those things. Writing scripts all day, it's definitely doable, and I do it, and it works nicely. It is very sturdy. It doesn't look like it is, but it is a very sturdy keyboard. Also, the keys are backlit, so that's nice. I'm very happy with the quality of it. This trackpad is awesome, and it is the best trackpad that Microsoft, to my knowledge anyway, that Microsoft has created. That's part of a Windows-based computer to this day. It is still not quite the Apple trackpad. I don't know what Apple does. I don't know how they were able just to create a trackpad experience that really is unique. So this is not quite that. However, having that said, I'm okay with this. Even with the few things that drive me crazy, which I'll talk about in a second, I'm still okay with this. It is so much closer to an Apple experience than ever before. So that's all good. Now, a couple of things that, I don't understand. Number one, I use, the left and right corners as a right and left click, as a lot of people do. And first of all, I've noticed after using it for a few months that the two corners, it's a little indented. Like, the trackpad, it's not straight, right? Because I keep clicking, here and there a lot, obviously. So that's a little concerning. My trackpad on my Apple MacBook Air, after 3 years, I started noticing that, a little wear and tear. But this one, I've already noticed it after about 3-4 months. So maybe this is it and it won't get any worse than this, but, it's something to keep in mind. Another thing which is more of an annoyance is, check this out. This thing is really loud. I know it might be a small thing, but when you click it, it's actually quite noisy, which I don't know why. Again, it works fine and all, but it is noisy. So that's another thing to keep in mind. The other thing that I did notice, and again, maybe this is just me being spoiled with Apple-based trackpad, there's a slight lag, just a little bit of a lag. As you scroll up and down, it's a micro second, a microsecond. It's very, very tiny, but sometimes you do notice it. So, yeah, maybe it could be the Bluetooth connection that causes that. Maybe it's not the actual keyboard. I don't know, but I do notice it sometimes. So that's something to keep in mind. Now let's talk about the actual device here. This display is truly amazing. You are looking at a 2736 by 1824 resolution, which is way beyond 1080p, obviously. It is an amazing display. Doing image editing, working in Photoshop, working with video and all that, it is beautiful. Yes, it's glossy, just like all of them, and I really wish it wasn't as glossy, because sometimes working outside or even indoor, if it's very there's a lot of light, it can be challenging. But you're gonna find that with every device. So that's a bit of a pain. But the display is truly beautiful. The only problem is there are quite a few apps that appear tiny. Like tiny, because they're optimized for a 1080p experience. Adobe's Bridge, which I use all the time. I love it. I actually had to get a hack for it so that it wouldn't appear, tiny, so that I can actually see and read the text and all that stuff. And there's still quite a few apps that appear very tiny, and that's a problem. This pen, which attaches, I'm sure you know that by now. There's a magnet. It attaches. It's not going anywhere, right? This is an amazing pen, and I'll talk more about the pen, because to me this pen is very important in your decision whether or not you want to get this guy. It's very sturdy. The build quality is truly amazing. It's not as flimsy. For example, I'm using the Wacom, whatever, into, I don't even know what the hell the damn thing's pronounced. Intunius, whatever. Graphics tablet. So this is the pen that I use, and it's fine. It's got your your standard 2 buttons. It's nothing fancy. Once you go to the Pro line, they get bulkier, and you have a better grip and all that. But this is fine for me. This guy blows this guy out of the water, and like I said, I like this guy. There's nothing wrong with it, but this is amazing. First of all, the fact that there's a certain weight to it, which it's hard to explain, but it's weighted very nicely. And when you're holding it, it really does feel like a premium pen, So love that. One thing I don't quite understand is when you look at the previous version, it had 2 buttons. Now this guy has only 1 button, which is right here. Unless I'm missing something, I tried to see if there's a second button hidden somewhere, but I don't think so. Not sure what the reason was to get rid of the second button, but I would. That's one thing. Again, it's not a big deal, but it would be nice to have a second button that I could program. So there's that. And then this is the eraser, and this also functions as a button. Pressure sensitivity on this guy is awesome. Yes, there is a bit of a lag, but you're gonna have that with all of these devices, including the graphics tablets and all that. But it's very, very, very minimal. I mean, I love to work with this guy. Now let's talk about the actual ports. It's got a USB port, it's got a mini display port, power plug-in, and then on the other side, it has your regular headphone jack. At the top, you have your on-off button and then the volume rocker. It has a micro SD slot. That is awesome. That is additional storage that you can use for all kinds of things. I would not use, applications like Photoshop or video editing apps. I would not store those files on the SD card. Even if you get an extremely fast card, it still does not compare to the internal speed of the SSD. So you're going to lose in terms of just performance, because it's going to be slower. At the back here, you open the kickstand, right? And this thing goes all the way to the back, like that. And this is actually how I prefer to use it. So in my case, I usually have this either on the table, and then I'm doing my designs, whatever it is, or I have it on my lap. Which one of the things I love doing with this thing is, if I'm in my bedroom and I just got it on my lap and I'm creating designs, or I'm working in ZBrush, whatever it is, it works. You know, it's a complete mobile experience. Obviously, if I'm doing video editing, I would prop it up like your standard laptop angle and then attach the keyboard and then just use it as a standard laptop. And that works perfectly. Microsoft, I think they claim you get a 8 or 9 hour battery life out of this guy. Yeah, that's complete bullshit, and I think we all know that. Again, depending on how you're using it, if you're just using it for productivity, so, you know, internet browsing, the occasional video, email and all that stuff, you should be able to get close to 6 hours, 5, 6, somewhere around there. In my case, I usually get 2, maybe 3 hours because I'm in Photoshop, I'm in Premiere Pro, I'm in ZBrush, I'm in Maya, all that kind of stuff. So 2, 3 hours. You know, it sucks. Yeah, I really wish it wasn't so limited when it comes to battery life. Now, I understand these applications are requiring a lot of energy to run, so a lot of, you know, processing power has to you know, be created for that. So it sucks, but, you know, it is what it is. Let's talk about Windows 10. Again, this is coming from a Mac user, being a Mac user for a decade. I love Windows 10. There are issues, and you know, some have been addressed, some, you know, we're still waiting for them to be addressed. However, all in all, I think Windows 10 is, and this is just my opinion, I think it's the best Windows operating system to date. You know, it is so much lighter than any previous versions. It is so much simpler. You know, I mean, you go, if you, okay, here's an idea. You want to find something, you know, in the settings. Guess what? You go to the settings menu. One menu. Boom, it's all there. Whoa. I know, it's a groundbreaking idea. But, you know, that's one of the things. So there's updates being released very often. I mean, sometimes on a weekly basis, depending on what it is. Yes, there are still quirks with it, sort of the typical, what I call typical Microsoft or typical Windows issues, which you don't get on OS 10. For example, sometimes you can't turn it on. I know it sounds scary, but you know, you would push the on button and it's just a black screen. So 9 out of 10 times what you do is you push the on-off button and the volume up, the plus button. You push it at the same time and then it'll show you the menu. I don't know why. Again, this is something they will hopefully eventually fix in a update, and only some people get it. You know, lucky guys like me. It is on. You know, the device is on. It's just not displaying it. Don't know. Like I said, let's hope they'll fix that soon, because that's a bit of a pain in the ass. Another issue that I did have, although they have been able to fix that, at least on mine, is the battery drain when it's in sleep mode. So a lot of people had this problem. They would just put it in sleep mode, like it is right now, and it was 100%, and then they wake up in the morning and it was, I don't know what the percentage was, but it was a significant battery drain, you know, maybe 10, 20%, I don't know what it was. I did do some optimization, you know, in the settings, telling it, okay, do this, do that. And once I did that, and with certain updates that Microsoft provided, I don't really have that problem as much. So that's been fixed, and thank you, because that was definitely, you know, a pain. The fan can get very, very noisy, and that can be sometimes a pain. That's something to keep in mind. Microsoft advertises this guy as a tablet. Like I said, they do talk about it's an all-in-one, but they do talk about this being a tablet, and the fact that, you know, this guy with this, you can do all kinds of things. You know, the fact that they're not selling the keyboard altogether, you know, does say that, well, you can use this by itself. Here's the problem. When I'm using applications like ZBrush, for example, to do my 3D modeling and all that stuff, it works beautifully. It is fast, everything's fine. But as anyone know, when you use an application like ZBrush or Photoshop or, you know, most applications, frankly. You need shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts. Now, having this guy and the keyboard attached doesn't work for me because, like I said, I like to put this on a table or on my lap and work. So I can't have the keyboard attached because it gets in the way. You know, my hand gets in the way. So I need on-screen keyboards. The on-screen keyboard on this is horrible. You have a few different versions of it. You have the slimmed down one. You have sort of the full keyboard. You have one keyboard that's broken up into two parts. And then you have one, it's not a keyboard, it's essentially, you get a little area where you can write with your pen, write the words, and it gets translated into text. That's the most useless one. That was a problem. And for me, like I said, using these applications a lot, I didn't know how to solve that. Then I came across an application called Tablet Pro. These guys did an awesome job. They created a customizable keyboard. So what you do once you install everything, you customize your keyboard the way you want it. You can put it on, frankly, you can put it anywhere. You can put it on the left side, the right side, up, down, wherever works for you. And then all you do is you hit the mouse button in the lower right corner and it appears. And in my case, as you can see here, that made my experience in all those applications so much easier. I decided to create a keyboard that has most of the buttons, sort of like a universal keyboard that works for me. But you can do whatever you want. You can create multiple keyboards. You can, have one, you can have a trackpad, whatever you want. This app allows you to do that, and it is awesome. I contacted the developers, and they're super nice. So if you got problems, you can always contact them. And kudos and big shout out to you guys. Thank you so much, because that is something that was needed on this guy, and that's something that Microsoft failed to do. And these guys picked up the slack and created their own solution, which works really nicely. So that's something I would recommend to you guys. If you're going to use this guy, without the keyboard and the pen, with the pen and without the keyboard, look into Tablet Pro. If you are a filmmaker and you want to work in the field, you want to have this as a mobile workstation, you will be able to use applications like Premiere Pro, which is what I do. And by the way, this entire video will be edited on this guy, just to kind of give you an idea of what you can do with it. Is it as powerful as a workstation? Of course not, but it's doable. Absolutely. One thing though to keep in mind, and this is something I didn't even think about because I'm so used to working on a Mac, I shoot with my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera primarily. Now, it shoots in ProRes. ProRes is, as far as I understand it, that's an Apple technology. So if you want to edit video, ProRes video on this guy in, let's say, Premiere Pro, you're going to have a hard time. And I did, and because I didn't realize that. I was working on a promo video. My God, it was crashing all the time. I lost hours and hours. And then I talked to a filmmaking buddy of mine, and he said, "Well, yeah, it's ProRes, dude. You gotta get QuickTime Pro." Duh. So I installed QuickTime Pro, and yes, it's gonna cost you about $30, somewhere around there, depending on where you are. And ever since I did that, it works fine. Now, if you have QuickTime Pro for the Mac, you're gonna have to buy it separately for Windows, because Apple. So yeah, it is $30, but get that. Other formats worked fine. H.264, MPEG-4 formats that you get from DSLR cameras, those work fine. But ProRes will be a pain. So definitely get QuickTime Pro 7. I guess that was the last version. If you are using this primarily for video, don't get anything lower than the i5. Don't get Core Mobile version, whatever the processor is called. Do not get that, and get at least 8 gigs of RAM. Do not get 4, because you will have problems. It will crash on you. It's just not enough. So get the i5 with 8 gigs of RAM, and then storage, whatever works for you. So if you are a guy or gal working in Photoshop, working in Illustrator, ZBrush, Maya, you name it, whatever it is, you will, in my opinion, you will like this guy. You will love it. I do. It's very easy to use. Everything I mentioned before, it's very intuitive. It allows you to work anywhere. When I'm in ZBrush, in this case, creating this little zombie, it was a breeze. I did all that in ZBrush. So here are a few examples of work I did, and everything, this entire demo here that you see, I did on the Surface. So I used ZBrush, I used Photoshop, and I used After Effects, and it worked really nicely. No problems there, and Premiere Pro obviously as well. Only one problem I had, I love to use Element 3D. That's a plugin by Video Copilot, and that's part of After Effects. Unfortunately, it doesn't work on this guy. It doesn't support the Intel graphics card. If you are the digital artist, you should get the i7. There are people saying, well, officially Microsoft says the same thing. You should get the i7 processor. However, for the Surface Book, they say you can get the i5 processor, and there's a lot of people online pointing that out, and I agree with them. Technically, you can get the i5. I really wouldn't, because as you know, work, especially if you are doing 3D modeling, AutoCAD and that kind of stuff. If you want to really future-proof this guy and use it for 2-3 years potentially, get the i7, get 16 gigs of RAM. Don't go below that, because trust me, you're gonna have issues. So that's something to keep in mind. Now let's talk about the big question: who is this for? And this is just my opinion. Take it or leave it, just my opinion. If you need a computer just for video editing, that's really all you're going to be using, I wouldn't get this, because this is quite expensive. You're looking at least $2,000. For $1,500, you can get a kick-ass MacBook Pro, that has better specs. Now, if there's something, if you need this because of Windows, because there's just a certain application you need Windows for, okay, that's a different story. But even there's kick-ass Windows 10 laptops nowadays that are cheaper and have better specs. So if it's just for video editing, I'd say get something else. Now, if it's just for if you're a digital artist and you use Photoshop, Illustrator, and 3D modeling and all that stuff, if you want to be mobile, yeah, obviously, get it. If you don't care about being mobile, and or if you want to be mobile but you don't care about using a graphics tablet that you just hook up to your laptop, then get something else. But like I said, if you want to be mobile, boom, get this guy. Now, if you are a guy like me who does all of these things, that's the person that who should definitely get this. If you are a person who uses this, there's a lot of people who love the fact that when you click this button, OneNote pops up and then you can write. And I've seen a lot of people online and in stores too who just love that fact. Oh my God, it's so easy, it's so intuitive. And they do it once, they scribble something on there, and then they never use this again. If you're not going to use this, don't spend the money. This is the question. This is the big guy. Ask yourself, do I need this? Because if the answer is no, you probably don't need this guy. I mean, you could get the Surface Pro 3. It's cheaper, and it might be better for you than the 4. So that's it, guys. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you got any questions, please put them in the comment section below. If you like this video, please hit the like and subscribe button. And if you want to support me, check out my feature film project Eugenics, which I just finished. It's a zombie feature film. Go to projecteugenics.com. Follow me on all the social media platforms. And if you got any questions, just let me know. Thanks.